Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Buffalo Plus live show. Mike Catalana along with Dan Fetes. Jenna, not feeling great today. She's fine. It's just maybe, a little too much partying for Jenna. Right, Dan?
Yeah. I thought you were going to say work, but we knew that would be a lie.
No, she's good. She's good. But
Yeah.
we just said rest up a little bit. So she's home. She'll be back to work this weekend. So,
Yeah.
so she'll be fine. But it's Dan and I with you tonight. So go ahead and any comments that you have, anything that you want, we'll look forward to it. Let's see here. We're getting some comments here right away.
Walter did make a good point that Carson Wentz and Josh Allen were both coached by Craig Bohl, who was at North Dakota State and then at University of Wyoming. So that is true. And I remember talking to the offensive coordinator, who was also the same guy. His name escapes me right now, but just the fact of they were different players. Yeah. And I remember trying to ask him, and their games, like, it's funny. They both kind of enjoy going off script in a backyard kind of way, but it's a different way of going about it.
I'd say Wentz is one of the few players in the league that is at least close to as physically talented as Allen. Josh is a better runner. They both have great arms. I mean, Josh's arm is spectacular, but Wentz can make every throw. The difference is how they approach coaching and how they work. And for Wentz, I'm glad he's back with Reich. Bills fans may not be as happy about it this weekend, depending on how he plays, but he needs somebody to be on him all the time.
Yeah.
And coach him hard and get him right. Because if you get him right, you got a player there. Allen,
I mean, it wasn't that long ago that he was in the thick of being an MVP season before tearing his ACL. So
yeah,
I think people have been waiting for that Wentz. Yeah, I think people are waiting to see if that Wentz ever comes back full term.
Yeah, I mean, look, he's got the physical ability to do it, and he's still young. I mean, he came out a year before Josh. So, I mean, we're not talking about, like, a guy who's had a whole career and now trying to make a comeback. So, yeah, we'll see how it goes. What do we got here? Go Bills. Oh, Caesar, Bean should get the blame for the pathetic O-line. Hey,
we will talk Spencer Brown, but they have a big concern.
Yep. We'll be talking about Spencer right here off the top. So what do we got here time-wise? We're pretty close because we'll get it started at 7 o'clock. And we'll be ready.
I will be doing all the behind-the-scenes stuff, so wish me luck. I'm not as good as Jenna. But
that's Jenna's gig
for a lot of things.
Man, we're making her sound irreplaceable. Well, she is, but
pretty much.
We don't want her to hear that if she's watching. She's probably at home watching.
Probably.
I don't know. We'll see.
All right. You ready, Mike?
I am ready.
I will hit the open, and we have 9 minutes for the first block. All right?
Okay.
And 3, 2.
Buffalo Plus, your interactive look at the week in football, brought to you by Connors and Ferris.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to Buffalo Plus. Mike Catalana, along with Dan Fetes, Jenna, Cottrell with the show off this time. We'll call it a bit of a veteran rest day and not feeling all that great. Jenna's fine. She'll be fine. She'll be working this weekend when we have the Bills and the Colts, but it's Dan and I tonight. Dan, let's get right to the news of the day, and it is big news for this team because it's at the position, the group that has been the biggest concern for this team.
Yeah, Spencer Brown went on the COVID reserve list on Thursday, and Mike, I think that maybe at times we've underplayed how valuable he really is when we saw the struggles when he was out and missed the Jacksonville game. And then what he was able to bring back to this offensive line when he returned last week. He brings an edge, and I don't think anybody expected that. The sense that Mitch Moore said after the game he's full of youth and vigor, and Sean McDermott even had to calm him down, saying that he played really well, but let's not put him in the Hall of Fame yet. Mike, he kind of brings that toughness. I don't know if that's a fair assumption or a fair thing to put on him. And it's not that the other O-linemen aren't tough or that physical style, but he just seems to be that other edge guy that they were lacking before he came in the lineup.
Yeah, I think you called it right. I think he embraces the physicality of the position. He gets out in front of things. I don't think this is a particularly athletic offensive line.
Mhm.
And by the way, Bills fans will remember when it was Richie Incognito who was referred to as aging and unathletic
Yeah.
and didn't take too kindly to it. These guys are all really good athletes, but I'm talking about in the context of what an offensive lineman can do, getting in front of plays. He had 2 pancake blocks in the
Mhm.
Jets game. And I'm not talking about at the line of scrimmage. I'm talking about he had these when it's out in front of a play and he made the hit and took a defensive back and a linebacker down to the ground. He is that kind of an athlete. But Dan, we know what happens here. Let's talk specifically about the offensive line. We'll get into maybe the longer term impact of it, but it's a 2-position change now, right? Because Spencer
Yeah.
Brown plays that right tackle spot. When he's out, in all likelihood, this is when they put Darrell Williams back at right tackle. Isn't that what's likely going to happen?
Yeah, and Darrell Williams hasn't been great at tackle. He played well last year, but he came from Carolina. They signed him as a guard, and he kind of fell into the right tackle position last year and played well. But I'm not as worried about Darrell Williams at right tackle. It is much more about Cody Ford going in to play right guard, which he has struggled mightily. I mean, he was pretty much a turnstile, you called him, after the Jacksonville game. And that is a big concern to me, Mike, as I don't think Tommy Doyle's ready. I remember in that Jacksonville game, Tommy Doyle was getting warmed up on the sidelines. I thought he had a chance of going in. He ended up not. But this is a big concern. Again, we don't know the vaccination status. We're not trying to get into that, but it's a competitive disadvantage where now Spencer Brown, not the best lineman, Mike, but can I say the most valuable at this point, is now probably going to miss 2 games, not just 1, 2.
Yeah, I mean, look, it matters. The vaccination status matters to the NFL. That's all I have to tell people. It matters to the NFL. The rules are different. You guys know it. You've heard it a million times. That's the way it works. If Spencer Brown is unvaccinated, he is going to miss the game on Thursday in New Orleans. That's the way it's going to be. He's not going to play in either one of them. And it's a stretch for the Bills. It's tough enough coming back. And then the hope on Sunday is that you avoid any type of injury too, because you're already going to be shorthanded. But Dan, this offensive line was looking like they were getting something going, and now they've taken a step back because of personnel.
Yeah, earlier this week, I asked Dion Dawkins how the offensive line took it upon themselves after a pretty embarrassing showing in Jacksonville and how they righted the ship in against last week in the Meadowlands. And this is what Dion Dawkins had to say.
I would just call it us focusing more on ourselves and really putting our foot down of who we are. And you can have your best performance and lose. You can have your best performance and win. And it's a week-to-week league. And we just had our best foot forward, and we just put our minds to it, and we got to win.
That's an easy way of saying it, but I think they did get something back by bringing back Spencer Brown. They got that edge, Mike, and this is an offense that, kind of bounced back in a big way after it seemed like the sky was falling after the Jacksonville game.
Yeah, it was a combination of things. They were more physical. Look, the Jets are not a great team, but neither are the Jags, okay? And they played poorly in that game. They got an identity back. They changed some things play calling wise. They ran the ball all over the place. And Stephon Diggs was Stephon Diggs. I mean, he was dominant. If you look at what Diggs did in that game where Josh Allen got him the ball, back dancing, that's what you want to see, right? Yep. Diggs playing that way. When Diggs is playing that way and getting the ball and making plays, it's a great offense. Brian Daboll said it. Of course, you want to get the ball to 14. The numbers aren't that far off from what they were a year ago. It just feels different this year. But Diggs knew after that game, when you play against a team like the Jets and you make those plays and the offense gets back up over 40 points a game, it's very different. So Diggs was talking this week about what happened in that game and talked about what this offense looks like and can look like.
You can't really sleep on any opponent, and I feel like, after a loss, especially when we lost to the Jags, not saying that they're a bad team, they came to play. They had a hell of a game. And I feel like people they're gonna be naysayers and people are gonna throw you in the trash after that. And I feel like, I'm not a bandwagon guy. I'm a guy that kind of stays just on the same, so when it's good things happen, I'm rocking. When it's bad things happen, I'm rocking. So for us, nobody wants to lose, especially that way. So this week we won. They'll love you when you win and they hate you when you lose. We'll see how it goes.
I think he's right. And I
Yeah.
think that, Mike, you said it best. The offense is still putting up really good numbers. They have the most points through 9 games in franchise history, which sounds crazy when you think about they've had some lackluster offensive performances. But the fact is that it just feels a little different. But really, this offense is still clicking at a high pace. They go from a season low 6 points to a season high 45. And I just think nothing really changed in the sense of Brian Dable's play calling. I think it was simply they just played better. Like teams have bad games, and I think maybe they were a little bit too high on themselves. But this thought of Dable and the offensive line, like they're still really good, Mike.
Yeah, they are. They can score. I mean, there was a concern because you went in that fourth quarter of the Titans game where they couldn't move the ball, and then it was a relatively poor offensive performance against the Jets, though they did come through in the second half. But against Miami. And then you play the Jags game, and it was terrible. So they needed a bounce back, and they got it. Look, this defense has been the most consistent part of the team. The offense has been a little up and down. That's where numbers don't always tell the whole story, Dan, because we all know it's been a little different. It hasn't been as easy. Would you agree with that? It hasn't seemed as easy as it did a year ago, where it seemed like guys were open all the time.
But to that, I will say it's also expectation.
Yep.
That last year it was like, wow, it's an offense that can score 30 points. And now when they don't score 30, it's like, what the heck's going on? Dable doesn't know what he's doing. This offensive line stinks. What's going on? I was there in Jacksonville when there were fire Dable chants. And I know those are the minority of fans. But I'm just saying the expectations have changed, where this offense is still second in the league in points, 5th in total yards per game. They're even 10th in rushing yards per game, Mike. Like, they're not that crazy. So all of those things are tempered when you win. They're more exposed more when you lose. And they will have a big test coming up. We said that finished that bye month. Things get a lot tougher now because they now have to face off against the Colts, a physical team with a 1-2 punch on offense that they will have to handle. We will have more on Jonathan Taylor and Carson Wentz coming up when we come back.
All right, cool. All right, so let's get a couple comments in here. What about the Indy defense? We'll talk about them in a little bit. They're not great. Snowstorm. Oh, Dion, you're talking about snowstorm. Richard Greenwood's going Colts, 32-24. How about that? Ethan is talking about Pats look like they're built to win later in the season, going into the playoffs. I like the way they're built for their personnel, right? For their personnel, they're good. And we'll see what happens tonight, because we can say, they're playing Atlanta, a team they're much better than, but if the football gods have anything nice, they'll let Atlanta get a win after that Super Bowl. Edmonds,
hamstring, still hasn't practiced. I think it's very tough to see him. And again, Star Lotulelei still remains on the COVID list. Obviously, Matt Milano is in a red non-contact jersey again for the second day in a row. This is a physical team coming to town that wants to run the ball and challenge the Bills' rushing defense. And they're going to have a big test without probably Tremaine Edmonds. My guess is that he would not play. And the fact that Milano is not 100%, and who knows what shape Star is in, even if he is able to play. This is another good comment, Mike. Talking about putting Ryan Bates at right tackle. The tough part is, and I saw somebody else make this comment online, I can't remember who it was, Bates is also the backup center, and that is a huge position. And like you talked about, Mike, it's great to fill somebody in, but now you're already shorthanded. You kind of like Ford as your emergency guy kind of thing, and now your emergency guy's playing. So now if somebody gets injured, now you're really shorthanded for that. Yeah. It is a big loss without Spencer Brown.
Yeah, and I mean, he is backup center. As long as Mitch is out there, if you had to do something and you shift him, I mean, think about that. You play Bates at right tackle. Now there's a problem at center. You move him to center. You move Williams back outside. You move forward. I mean, that's the kind of thing. But unfortunately, that's the kind of thing that happens in this league. And I would say over the last basically 3 years, I think right now is the most vulnerable the Bills have been from an injury COVID standpoint, because not only are they missing players players banged up, Beasley with his ribs. Like, there's things like that they're dealing with. But you've got 2 games within 5 days. And they have injuries. Like, they haven't dealt with a lot of this, losing players in games. But this is a tough stretch here for them. So
my guess is at some point, unfortunately, I'm not saying I want this to happen, but what I think will happen, Mike, is I think eventually Tommy Doyle or Jameel Douglas is going to get some time in.
It could be Sunday, Dan. It could be Sunday.
Well, that's what I'm saying is I think they're going to get thrown in the mix on Sunday because if the Jacksonville game is any indication,
right?
We said before the Jacksonville game that Jacksonville was Cody Ford's last chance, and he failed it miserably.
Yeah.
And Josh paid for it, especially early. So I think if things go south early, Josh gets sacked once or twice, pressured early. I don't see how you don't pull the plug early and just go with anything different than what you saw of just rolling the guys out that you saw in Jacksonville.
Well, on the plus side, they had a few days of practice. Like, they would have found this out today.
Yep.
So they got a couple of, days. It's a home game. They got a little more time to get guys ready, and that's a key thing. So, all right, Dan, you ready to get going?
Yeah, 6 minutes. We'll go 5:30 for this block because we were just a tad heavy on the last one, okay? And whenever you're ready.
All right, welcome back to Buffalo Plus. Mike Catalana, along with Dan Fetes. Jenna Cottrell will be covering the Bills and with us all weekend long. Let's talk a little bit about this Colts team. Dan, I'm going to say this. I'm going to say about Jonathan Taylor. I think he is the best running back in the NFL. Derrick Henry is a special player, and he can run people over, and he is a force. But you look at Jonathan Taylor, his yards per carry, his ability to catch the ball, too. He's number 1 in the league in total yardage. He ran and ran and ran at Wisconsin, and people thought he wasn't going to be able to do it in the NFL, and he does it. And we're not talking about, much like with Henry, we're not talking about a great passing team, and this guy still makes plays. I love the way he is around the goal line. Dan, he's a lot to handle.
Yeah, and they have a really good offensive line that has been together for a few years. Obviously, you talk about Quentin Nelson, just some of the guys that are the big horses up front. And look, if there's one thing the Bills have had issues with over the years, it's stopping the running game. And I know a lot of times too, what neutralizes a running game, Mike, is getting ahead early. But the Colts, they're always in games. Like I don't see a blowout going either way here. So this is a time where, like, I'm not trying to say they failed the test against Derrick Henry when they played the Titans because one big run was 80 yards, but Jonathan Taylor is also that back that can break one and run over you and get short yardage and have breakaway speed. He is a handful. And when we asked Jordan Poyer and Mike and Coach Sean McDermott about it, this is what they had to say about dealing with the Colts running back.
If you could kind of build them all a back that way, he's got size, power, vision, balance, home run speed. You don't always it's hard to find that all those traits in one back, and he's got them all.
Just a guy who runs extremely hard. That guy runs hard. He's probably the hardest runner we've seen all season. Breaks a lot of tackles. It's gonna be a task we're gonna have to play well.
Yeah, and they faced Derrick Henry. So those are big words coming out of Jordan Poyer's mouth.
And how about Sean McDermott's words? You don't think he's thinking, get me a running back like that? And it's not a disrespectful thing to Zach Moss or Devin Singletary. And everybody wants a Jonathan Taylor type, but he wants that type of player.
Yeah. And on the other side, the guy that's handing the ball off to him a lot, Carson Wentz, Mike, I found some of these still pictures from Getty Images that I think you'd really get a kick out of, because these are the type of plays that Carson Wentz will do once a week. These wild backyard football throws that whether they're left-handed punts or one another, Mike, these are the ones that really stand out to me.
Yeah. I still have PTSD from watching him as an Eagles fan. The guy is an incredible talent and can make the plays. But Dan, the problem is when you do what he does, you put your team in a bad spot, offensively, because he's given the ball away. So Wentz was asked about being reckless. He says, it's not as bad as it used to be.
Yeah, I mean, for as long as I can remember, you're always toeing the line. I'd say when I was younger, I definitely was probably a little more aggressive and maybe a little more reckless than I needed to be. And so just always learning from that. But, yeah, you're always toeing the line with taking the shot, being aggressive, checking it down, taking a sack, extending a play, all of those things. And I'm sure we'll be talking about this for a long time.
Look at 9. Do you see 96 there? He's looking at him like, are you really going to throw the ball here? It's
Carson
ridiculous.
Wentz never thinks the play is over. And that is a good thing and a bad thing. And
it's
I asked
mostly
Jordan,
bad.
Yeah, but I've asked Jordan Poyer of like, how do you prepare for, I wouldn't say Wentz is a mobile quarterback. He can move, but he's not mobile like he used to be. And the fact of how do you prepare for something like that? And he said it's tough. Like plays will be extended. Like I'm not saying he moves, or I'm not saying he's mobile and runs with it. He just extends plays. So it's longer. It leads more time for defensive holding, illegal contact, all of those things down the field, Mike.
Yeah, he can move. I mean, I'd say he's more like a younger Rodgers in terms of being able to move, but not running it that much. Because he can move. You know, it's a little different since he had his knee surgery, but he can do that. And he even referenced the game he had against the Bills when he was with the Eagles in 2019, where they were struggling and came in and they ran the ball, and it was very effective. Now, that was a bit of shift in. The Bills weren't really ready for it. It was a bad game for the Bills, but that's his memory of going against the Bills defense. And Dan, with this Colts team coming in, we talked about the quarterback. We talked about the offensive line. The head coach is a former Bill. And one thing about Frank, man, he can keep his team going no matter how they get started.
Start of the season 1-4, 4-1 since then. He talked about the Colts making a playoff push. We talked about how wide open the AFC is. Here's what Frank Reich had to say.
I mean, this is big. I mean, especially this first one, AFC. I mean, it's huge. And there's a lot of good teams in the AFC, but no one's just taken over. Why can't it be us? You know, why can't the Indianapolis Colts take over right now? That's our mindset. Why can't we take over? So if we're going to do it, we got to prove it this week, you know, in Buffalo against a very good football team. And so that'll be fun.
Yeah, so why not them is a good point. We will talk more about the mic drop coming up a bit later. It's the best segment of the show. Mike Catalana has his mic drop when we come back on Buffalo Plus.
Do we need to do the injuries?
I don't have
so we can just talk about it, and we'll put in fact, let me put URMC up here so everybody knows this. I believe I have it here. Yes.
Beautiful.
Did it go up?
No, there it is. Now it's up.
Okay. So we'll do that. We'll do that for this segment. We'll do it at the beginning.
Okay.
No. Yeah, we'll do it at the beginning. Well, yeah. Okay. What are we getting here? Let's see what we're getting here. Comments. Let's see who's talking to us. Dan, what do you got? Anything?
Who doesn't love the punching stick? Yeah, no, I want to go back to this video because obviously it's part of the show, but this was the best video of all time of Sean McDermott carrying around, looked like the American Gladiator. It was awesome. And again, I know so I tweeted this video out. Some people said that McDermott didn't have the agility. Mike, how did you describe it? It's the dad who didn't want to try too hard with his teenage son.
Well, it's not that. Not the trying. So it's the dad in the backyard while his teenage sons are playing basketball. And at that moment, he realizes they're pretty good and I'm not there. And if I try too hard, it's not going to look great. Like Sean's in phenomenal shape, but he's not an NFL player. So he was sort of like in the backyard going, hey, kids, throw me the ball. I'm over here kind of thing. That's kind of what I sensed out of him.
Yeah, I absolutely agree.
Yeah.
A couple comments coming in. It's full video length on Buffalo Plus app.
Triggs 44 says, you guys look lost without Jenna. We miss having Jenna on. She's fine. But, you know, she's fine.
I thought Triggs too. Like Mike, you were saying he reminded you of a young Aaron Rodgers. I thought Big Ben too. Almost a Romo in the pocket. Romo couldn't run. but like
he
that
can move.
extending
But
the play.
See, Wentz will run.
Yeah.
Hey, look at that, Ron. Thank you very much. Drops everything on Thursday night to be with us, so that's good. Yeah, it's kind of funny. By the way, if McDermott he could drop the stick down, put the mat down, wrestle anybody on the team and win. We know he can do that.
Yes.
So there's no question he can get that done.
All right, so 3:45 for this block, Mike.
Let's and we'll discuss the injuries because keeping in mind things are running on Sunday. So
yes,
just at the beginning.
And then I will give you a time if we have any time to discuss after Greg. Just look for me in the bottom.
Okay.
All right, ready whenever you are.
All right. Welcome back to Buffalo Plus. This segment brought to you by UR Medicine Sports Medicine. We'll talk injuries. Dan, who are the guys we're looking out for that may be game time decisions for this one?
Looks like Cole Beasley will probably be in. He's been dealing with the bruised ribs now for a couple of weeks. Tremaine Edmonds looking doubtful as the week goes on. Did not practice on Wednesday or Thursday. And the other one, too, is Matt Milano, who's another guy that was practicing, dealing with a shoulder injury that popped up at some point. He's been in a red non-contact jersey.
Yeah, it's something to keep an eye on. And again, with another game coming right up on Thursday, they've got to be smart about these injuries and not put themselves in a bad spot. All right, it's time for the mic drop segment where I give you my opinion on what's going on. And I'm going to follow up on what Frank Reich was saying about being in the mix, right? A lot of times in our business, and you guys see it, especially with the national guys, right? The Stephen A. Smiths of the world, it's always a big take. It's always looking at one game and making your opinion on it 5 games down the line. And it doesn't make sense. And never have we had a season quite like this, what we have in the AFC, where there are so many teams bunched up. Every week, they want to say, who's the best team in the conference? We don't know who the best team. You cannot go by one game. Look at the 2 teams playing right now. Bills lost their opener. Colts lost 4 of their last 5. People started to dismiss them. Then they brought them back. Then the Bills lose a game and they get crushed again. You cannot go week to week. I know we say it all the time, but this is the year when it really shows up the most. Look at the Kansas City Chiefs. Great, terrible, done, back, all within a few weeks. I heard people saying already they're the best team in the league. They beat up on the Raiders in one game. Let's see if they continue to do it. This is where you got to sort of take a breath all the time. And even for Bills fans, I think the Bills have the potential to be the Super Bowl team like we picked them, but there's so much football to play. Don't get worked up when anybody else says anything. One game doesn't make a season. This game won't either. Well, the New England games are pretty close. So let's see what happens. But for right now, take a breath. It's a heck of a season, and the Bills are in the mix.
Because Mike believes in the cliches of it's 1 week at a time, any given Sunday, and the other team gets paid to play too.
Because they're all true. And the week-to-week league is the best one. It absolutely is a week-to-week league. And that's why when you see one game and you say, this team is, look at the LA Rams. Then they played their last 2 games and got shoved aside. So relax a little bit and enjoy the experience right now because it's going to be a heck of a second half of the year.
Speaking of week-to-week league, each week we want to thank our sponsor, Connors and Ferris. And each week, Greg Connors gives his opinion on what he thinks will happen this week as they host the Indianapolis Colts.
For me, I see this being a close game too. I think that the Bills are going to have to put up more than 27 to win. I think Taylor in the way and I think Frank Reich is the best play caller in the NFL right now. I think he's better than Andy Reid. I really think with the tools that Frank Reich has, he has done more with the talent that he has, and Andy Reid has done with the talent that he has. And I think Frank Reich keeps him in the game. I think he knows what it takes to beat the Bills. He's seen it or keep it close. I think it's going to be Bills 27-24.
Yeah. That score could be coming up in the next block where we give our opinions, because that's a pretty smart pick coming from a guy who knows. And obviously just more of Sean McDermott with a punching glove on a stick. We will have our predictions and picks coming back after the break.
You're going to be looking for that McDermott with the stick every week now, aren't you?
every week. My only anger is that I was too far away, but I got enough good shots. I think
By
we're
the
right
way,
on time.
let people in on that a little bit. Shooting practice is not easy. You can't go wherever you want to be.
Right. And there's like 3 fields that they all work on. So you're obviously, most people, we always want the shots of Josh Allen and all of those things. The offensive line is kind of working on the far side of the field, and you can't be, more than one place at once. So you're kind of trying to shoot through people. You're kind of getting the same shots every week because the only part that we're able to film is the same things they do every single week.
Yeah.
So we get the stretching, we get the Josh Allen race to the drills and all of those things. So it's funny when you get something different like Sean McDermott running around with a punching glove on a stick.
All right, Dan's got to work on some timing here. I wanted to answer a few things while he's doing that. Paul asked about, are you guys going to be on next week? So here's what our plan is. Dan and I will be enjoying a wonderful brunch on Thanksgiving on Bourbon Street. At least that's what I'm trying to plan out, because we'll be down in New Orleans for the game. But here's our plan for the Buffalo Plus live show. Since it won't air on the weekend, we're going to actually do 2 versions of the show this week. Wednesday night, Dan and I will be on. The plan will be, and Jenna, the plan will be 6:45 from 5:45 in New Orleans on Wednesday. And then we'll be inside the Superdome on Thursday, and we'll do the same thing again, 6:45 to 7:15 to get you ready for the game. So basically a bonus edition of the show running both Wednesday night and again, a different show live from New Orleans on Thursday. So, what do we got? What are they? Beignets? What's that?
Beignets.
Beignets.
It's like a donut.
Oh, have you had them before?
No, I've never been to Nolans.
I've been to Nolans before, and Bills fans will know I've also been on the road to see them play in San Antonio when the game got moved after Katrina. We'll experience a little Bourbon Street, but it's still COVID time, so we got to be good. But we'll be down there, so that'll be Wednesday and Thursday.
Mike, 4 minutes for this last block.
Ian's giving you a hard time. He said boxing glove, not punching glove.
Yeah, that's true. I thought about that the second time I said it, where I called it a punching glove for the second time, and I went, that doesn't sound right. It's
Dan's
a
hockey player. He's a hockey player.
Yeah. Okay.
Baseball and hockey.
So 4 minutes, Mike.
Okay.
And I will do like what Jenna did last week. When we have 30 seconds, I'll give the old
you mean when I
check.
wasn't paying attention?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
All right.
So you're you got your best bets to start, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And then Jenna's pick. Did you see that?
Yep.
Okay. So we'll just drop Jenna's pick in there. And then so Jenna's pick, my pick, your pick.
And hers was 27-21, right?
Correct.
Okay. All right. You ready?
Yep. And whenever you're good.
Yeah, here we go. All right. Welcome back to Buffalo Plus. Mike Catalana along with Dan Fetes. And Dan, come on. Make some money for the people, right? You need some good picks. What do you got for your best bets?
They haven't been great. I'm going to be hand up, but I really like the Ravens this week on the road in Chicago. The Bears have lost 4 in a row. I still just don't buy it. I know they're coming off a bye, but Matt Nagy's not that good of a coach to give points to boost him up after a bye. The Ravens are minus 4.5. I just think they bounce back after that embarrassing game down in Miami. They're too good of a team. The AFC's wide open. This is a kind of a must-win game as that AFC North is so tight. Ravens bounce back, win by a touchdown plus against the Bears.
Yeah, it's kind of fascinating for Bills fans to be watching these games. There are so many teams you need to root against. All I would tell you is make sure it's the Patriots, as you know, first and foremost, because this thing all runs through winning the division. All right, time for us to pick the games. I told you guys Jenna was out for the show this week, but we have her pick. She's going to go with the Bills in a close one. And Dan, if I believe 27-21, that would not be a cover in this game, right? Is it still a 7-point line?
Still a 7-point line. It's held there all week.
All week. So Jenna has the Bills winning 27-21. Dan, what do you got?
I think this game is really close, and we talk all the time about matchups. I don't love this matchup. I don't like this matchup even more once Spencer Brown went out. I think this is a really strong front seven for the Indianapolis Colts. I think this could give a lot of problems. If the Jaguars got pressure, rushing Cody Ford and that offensive line that struggled down in Jacksonville, I think we could have some more issues this one. I think Josh Allen will be more prepared. Mike, like you said, I think the week they can kind of set some things up. I got Tyler Bass kicking a game-winning field goal here. 27-24, very close game. Two very evenly matched teams playing well right now.
Yeah, Dan's right there with Greg Connors on his pick. I like the Bills coming back at home. I think they know they're in a tougher spot here, and they know they're playing against a good team. And I think that they'll be ready to play. That's not a concern here. But the Colts are a physical team, and the Bills are a little shorthanded. I don't like that part of this game. But they do have the better quarterback. The coaching is pretty close. I mean, I think, McDermott's had a little more success, but I think Frank Reich is a heck of a coach. I think that makes it close. The Bills' defense is considerably better than the Colts. And if they give Josh any time, he will get to this secondary. And I believe he's got a good chance to do that. I have the Bills winning it 27-20, which I believe would be a push in the betting parlance there, but it's 27-20 for the Bills.
Interesting. So many close things that you see with this team. The Bills are number one in takeaways this year, the Bills defense. Second place team, the Colts. They do take the ball away. Now, granted, again, I dropped some stats last week just about where the Bills offense stood, and people wanted to say, well, they played this team and they played Houston. Like, you can only play what's in front of you. It's not like, it's funny because, Mike, like, we still don't know who the cream of the crop is as this AFC and when you're playing teams, because all of a sudden at times that Chiefs win looks great. At times it doesn't.
I was just going to say that the Chiefs went from being great to maybe not so great to now it's looking really good again. So we'll see. The Colts have not beaten a winning team, and they have not beaten a team that made the playoffs last year. That's the big talk in Indy. We talked to Olivia Ray. She's a reporter there. You can see that on the Buffalo Plus YouTube channel. Some good insight on the Colts. She talked about that, and she said that's the big concern for the Colts this week. That's going to do it for us this week. We appreciate you guys being there. Remember, Wednesday night, 6:45, Thursday night, 6:45 from New Orleans. For Jenna Cottrell, off tonight, Dan Fetes, I'm Mike Catalana. Thanks for watching Buffalo Plus, and enjoy the game on Sunday.
Perfect. I think you gave me 10 seconds to play with,
Good.
Which is what I wanted.
Okay. And here we go. Let's see what else we got on here.
Thank you, Alex. This is my first time producing the show. I hit a wrong button early. We weathered the storm, guys.
Yeah, Bobby Johnson says Colts in must-win mode. It's a revenge game. I agree with all that. By the way, you're the offensive line coach for the Bills. I know you want to watch this, but seriously, Bobby. By the way, a little heat on Bobby. Everybody likes him, but
great guy. We did a lot of stories on Bobby when he first came in 2019. Probably the loudest guy at training camp.
Yep.
And had really done a good job of I mean, I think they all kind of did, but it's like you made a point too. Quentin Spain is playing really well with the Bengals. And then obviously you have Wyatt Teller, who signed a massive deal with the Cleveland Browns. Those are two guys that I think the Bills would love to see.
I'll tell you this. I know I've said this last week. It's an off-season priority for this team to get this offensive line going.
Yes, this will show us if the run defense has improved. The tricky part is here, Steven. If Starr's not back, if Edmonds isn't playing, if Milano's not 100%, those are, while I hate Tremaine Edmonds, I don't want to say hate. While I don't like Tremaine Edmonds in coverage, he has been he's been pretty good at run stopping this year. So those are two guys that you would really like to have at full strength to face Jonathan Taylor this week.
And let me tell you something. Greg Connors said, and I think he's right. He said the Colts remind you a little bit of the Patriots, other than the wacky Wentz plays, because I don't think Mac Jones is doing that. But they're built sort of the same way. I think New England's got a better defense, but offensively, they like to move the ball with the chains. They run the ball. They're effective that way. Bills are going to see a lot of that, and that's what they're going to see in the playoffs. When you've got the Titans, maybe the Browns, certainly the Patriots. These are teams that can be physical and run the ball. It's what worries me about this team is playing physical on both sides of the ball. And, that's a concern.
And it was funny because Jordan Poyer this week addressed it. And he said, yes, the Titans are on film a very physical team. And when you know that, it's like going into a fight. Like, you're going to have to throw some punches and you're going to get hit and you're going to have to get up and keep throwing punches. And we asked Deion Dawkins the same question. Again, different sides of the ball. But Deion's like, well, every team's physical. And, you just kind of have to handle it. It's like Poyer, while I think he has not enjoyed talking to the media at all this year, he has given some honest answers about when good questions have been asked. So,
the other guy I wanted to mention here, we talk about the injury to Edmonds, and we're not sure about with Milano. AJ Klein is one of the most physical players on the team. He is a violent tackler. He enjoys throwing people to the ground. Like, they hit, Poyer can hit, like guys will hit, and Milano can run people over at times, but AJ Klein, it's noticeable when he tackles somebody. And I think that I'm not too upset to see AJ on the field a little bit, and maybe playing a lot this week. I think he played well in the Jets game, and I look for him to get more snaps, obviously this week, depending on the injuries.
And I know a lot of people are talking about loading the box, pressuring the line of scrimmage. That all makes sense, but it's funny, Mike, because I go back to that Tennessee game and I think about Micah Hyde standing on the train tracks with Derrick Henry coming through. I'm like, they're going to have to be Poyer and Hyde, who have played phenomenal, easily Pro Bowl, flirting with all pro status this season. They haven't gotten the respect they deserve throughout the years, but they are going to have to become tacklers. Poyer is not afraid to go down in the box and put his nose in there. They're going to need some of that this week.
All right.
Hey,
well,
look at
we
that.
are
DK Metcalf is coming. Look at that. He's another guy watching our show.
Look at that.
We got NFL guys all over the place.
Diggs is coming to Seattle with me. Wow.
How about that?
Look at that. Well, he may not have his quarterback there because we don't know where Russ is going to be cooking next year.
Nope.
So,
yeah, and this is a good point too. The Bills have seen Jonathan Taylor last year in the postseason game. Again, another really close game. Phillip Rivers, at the stage of his career that he was at, I think is completely different than what Carson Wentz, the level of play he's at right now.
Well, at least Wentz could reach the end zone from the 45-yard line.
Yes.
That last Hail Mary pass, by the way, and that was scary. Colts got the ball, and I'm thinking, is this really going to end here?
Yeah.
And the Bills survived it. But that's a game from last January. That's maybe a little bit in the head of the Colts saying we want to get it back. But I'll agree with the players here. Different teams, a lot of stuff different. But the basic mindset of the way the Colts play, and by the way, Reich in that game was very aggressive at going for a touchdown when he could have gone for a field goal. I mean, that's the way he is. Going for two, like, he is a very aggressive decision maker.
And the one thing that was very telling to me, Mike, that game, what stands out to me most about that Indy game, that wild card game, was the two catches by Gabriel Davis on the sidelines that kept that big drive going. I mean, Gabriel Davis played really well in that game. So,
yep. All right. I believe we're going to end this again. Remember, everybody who's here with us, Wednesday night, 6:45, Thursday night, 6:45 in New Orleans. Nolans. Got to say it the right way. Louisiana. All right. Thanks for being with us, and we'll see you this week. Enjoy the game. And we have plenty of coverage on Buffalo Plus.